Hi, and welcome to Lesson 6, Step 1, Creative with Collages. I personally really love collages because the options are endless and they're just fun. And in the last few years, collages have become super popular, and I personally think it's partly related to the just sheer number of photos that are taken nowadays. With digital photography, it's easy to take and store hundreds, if not thousands, of great photos. And with a collage, you can share so many more of those great photos at the same time. Plus, nowadays, there are so many online tools for making collages. We've come a long way from cutting and pasting, haven't we? Well, many of the online photo collage templates or makers are geared toward people who want to make collages to share online via Facebook, Instagram, or maybe even their own blogs or sites. I definitely recommend taking a look at those for inspiration. But in this lesson, we're not talking about virtual photo collages that people will just glance at and keep scrolling through. We're going to talk about how to make a stunning photo collage that you'll want to hang on your wall and enjoy every day. Now imagine you're just back from a great trip and you have a ton of amazing photos. And when you look at them collectively, they perfectly capture the spirit of that trip. You don't want to or can't choose just one for your wall. Well, a photo collage is perfect. But what size? How many photos should you include? Which shapes do you want? Making a collage is like designing a puzzle from scratch. You get to decide how many pieces there are, which sizes those are, and which one fits where. All that choice is great because you can customize it exactly as you want. You have complete creative control. And you'll enjoy it. At least that's what I did when I was making this collage that's hanging behind me from a great coast-to-coast road trip. For this lesson, I'm going to walk you through step by step how I made this collage in Photoshop. And by the end, you'll be ready to make your own collage and even a collage template that you can use over and over. I promise, it is easier than it sounds. And once you know how, you'll see endless opportunities and have just as much fun as I did. Oh, and by the way, I'm also including the template that I made to create this collage as a downloadable Photoshop file for this lesson. So you can download it and use it yourself. But if you don't use Photoshop, don't worry. Just go online and you're going to find some options for helping you make collages. So first, you need to know which photos you'd like to have in your collage and how big of a photo print you want. I love road trips. I mean, who doesn't? And I have so many great photo road trips that just choosing photos for this collage was kind of easy, especially because I didn't just need to choose just one, right? I created a new folder called Road Trip USA, and I put in all the photos that I thought would look great in the collage. I ended up first selecting 18 photos and then narrowing it down based on how they fit in the template, but that we're going to look at together. I also knew that I wanted to hang my photo here, and I wanted it to be really big. So I decided to make an 80 by 40 inch wall print. That's about 200 by 100 centimeters. So once you know those things, the photos that you want to use, and the size of the print you want to make, you are ready to get started. So let's do it together. Now, before getting started on the collage, I do recommend looking at your photos and their composition. You're going to want to think about each photo's shape and where it could fit in your photo collage puzzle. Pay special attention to which ones you like the most, which ones you think should be bigger than the others, and the ones that maybe have a layout that's different from the rest. From my photos, I knew that I wanted the Grand Canyon shot to get more attention, so it should be bigger. I also knew that I had at least 2 vertical photos, so I wanted to make space in the collage for those. When you're done, then you start making your new document. First, I set the image and dimensions that I want, and that, in this case, those were 80 by 40 inches. And I'll also set the resolution to 300 ppi. I know that when we've talked about resolution until now, I've said that wall prints need a minimum of 80 ppi because they're so large and viewed from farther away. However, collages are slightly different. You'll want to use 300 ppi because it's a collection of smaller photos, and those need a higher ppi. People may want to walk over and look at the photos in your collage from close because they are smaller. So you want your resolution to work for that. I want there to be a bit of space between each of my photos, so I set up guidelines in Photoshop to guide me, but you don't have to do this. However, if you do want to add guidelines, just make your ruler visible by going to View and then scrolling down to Ruler. Then you can either click on the ruler and drag the guidelines to where you want them, like this, or you can go back to View and choose New Guide and simply type in exactly where you want your guidelines to be. Now it's time to make your collage puzzle. You're going to use the rectangle tool, although you could use any shape you want. And make sure that the layer is set to a visible color, so not white if your background is white. And then simply start designing. Each rectangle I make then becomes its own layer. If you want to use the same shape more than once, I recommend you duplicate the layer by right or control clicking on it and then selecting Duplicate Layer. You can also hit Control or Command J to do this. You can then drag it wherever you want. So I've done that here, and now I'm going to just start puzzling out my collage and adding the photos to it. To keep it simple, especially when you're making a collage with a lot of photos like this one, I recommend adding only one photo at a time to the space where you want it. So simply go into your Finder and drag the photo you want to use into your collage. Once you have it there, you want to position it on top of the shape where you want the photo to actually be. It's not going to look great yet because you've simply dragged it on top, but with a little tool called the clipping mask, you can make it perfect. In your layer list, make sure you position your photo above the shape where you want it to be. Then right-click on the photo and scroll down to Clipping Mask. Instantly, your photo will be visible only from within the shape that you've defined. Once you select your photo layer, you can then size and move your photo within it however you want, and it'll still be in that same clipping mask. Isn't that cool? To help me remember how to create the clipping mask and where the photo should be in that layer tab, I think the photo is the most important, so it gets to be on top. I always remember to position the photo above the shape that will create the clipping mask. Then I just continue doing that with each photo in my collage until all the photos are in and I'm happy with how they're positioned, and also just the overall look of the collage. You might want to balance the different colors in photos with different sides, but it's really up to you. Pretty easy, right? Now, before I got started with this, I had a good idea of what I wanted, but there are a lot of creative options, and you're going to want to keep these all in mind as you start planning your collage. 1, the size. So you're going to need to think about the print size that you want and the number of photos you want in your collage. Because I wanted a huge 80 by 40 inch photo print, I had space for a lot of photos, and I can position them in many different sizes in the collage. But if your print is smaller or a different ratio, for example, maybe a 45 by 30 inch print, you could use fewer photos. Or you could use many photos, but have them be much smaller. It's up to you. 2, shape. Think about which photo shapes you want in your collage. I've chosen all square and rectangular shaped clipping masks, but you can choose any shape you want. Ovals, circles, stars, or anything really. You use exactly the same process to lay out your collage puzzle and to add the photos, just with different shapes. 3, Spacing. How much space, if any, do you want between the photos in your collage? So this one has a 1/2 inch of space between each photo and around the sides of the collage. Yours could be much less or much more. Just play around with it and you'll figure out what you like. 4, background color. If there's space between your photos, what color do you want that space to be? I've chosen a white background for my collage, but before printing it, I did play around with other colors. Here's how it would have looked with a black background and a deep blue background. Take a look at the space where you're going to hang the collage, and that can also help you choose the right background color. To test out different backgrounds, simply create an extra fill layer by clicking on the circle-shaped fill or adjustment layer at the bottom of your Layers tab, and then choose Solid Color as the type of fill layer. Then you want to choose your color, and it will appear as its own layer. Make sure, though, you drag it to the bottom of the list of the layers, and then test which one you like the most by making different color layers visible, like this. Now that you know how to design and make a great collage using your own photos, have fun and get creative. And if you want to double check how it would look in your home before printing it, use that trick we spoke about in Lesson 1, Step 2. You take a photo of the space where you want to hang it, and then in Photoshop, simply drag your collage in as a low-resolution JPEG in that photo. You can use this trick to test out different layouts or colors or sizes. Remember, the most important thing is that your collage makes you feel good. And with all of your great photos and your creative energy behind it, I'm sure it will. In Lesson 6, Step 2, we're going to look at multi-panel photo prints, known in the art world as diptychs and triptychs. It's going to be awesome, so I'll see you there.